Hey, what is up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the morning show here on Stock Market TV. Spencer, JC, Steve, Alfonso. How we doing, chat? We're off to a good start today, I hope. Actually, yeah, yeah, mixed, right? Some green, some red. It's all right. It's all good. Balance is holding. What are we talking about today? I know what we're talking about. Actually, I know who we're talking to. We're talking to Meb Faber, who is definitely a fan favorite, a favorite of ours for sure. I think we had him on the show. It was maybe like a year ago now. So we're very excited to talk to Meb. He is someone that we cite periodically. Does great work. Writes great white papers. And so he'll be on the show at 9. We'll have Kenny Glick. And that is the general plan of the day. And then, as usual, we will see where that plan goes awry, right? What up, chat? Abraham, Josh, Ovo, Jeff, Dawson, Peter, Johnny, Billy, Bill. We'll try not to talk about Snow White again. I think that was a Monday conversation. That was a post weekend thing. I think we're past that. Anyway, that's the plan. Drop me a like if you'd be so kind. It looks like this, just like that on the YouTube. I'd appreciate that. If you're watching us on Twitter /X/whatever, hop on over to YouTube, hit that thumbs up. Thank you very much. And I guess we'll start, right? Let's do it. Oh, what the heck? Wait a minute. JC? Hello? Steve? Hello?
We good? We good?
Are we out here? Yeah.
Oh, just getting the party started this morning. No big deal. I heard we're not talking about Snow White today.
I mean, that was a Monday thing, I think.
Is there a reason for that?
I don't think we need to beat that horse again.
Do you think it's interesting?
What the heck?
Whoa. What's that echo?
That's you. You're in here twice.
Here, hold on.
I got you. All right. Yeah. Anyway.
There we go.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that Disney had the worst, I think it was like the worst movie premiere of all time because this actress couldn't keep her mouth shut. And I think that the fact that Disney rallied despite that is interesting, right? So like I'm always looking at kind of like the contrarian thing.
Yeah.
Right. So if things are so bad, then why did Disney rally yesterday? Is it because the overall market rallied and Disney's a Dow component?
Probably.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is there that? Are we just kind of like, are we overthinking it?
Yeah.
I really, really like how much the anti-woke community is flexing their disapproval of Snow White and her behavior and all of these things. I like that.
Happy anniversary, everyone.
Why are you changing the subject? Does anybody not think that Disney's along because of that that kind of sentiment? I really, really like it. Spencer, your face cannot be any more red. Why don't you? Is there like a button we can press to turn Spencer's face less red?
I don't think you need to like victory lap on the wokeness anymore. Like the world has spoken in a big way. I'm
not victory lap. I don't give a shit at all. But the people out there on the internet, they're flexing. Is my point. So if we can, how I always say, the best time to kick someone is when they're down, right? I think that they're overstepping here, and I think the Disney line go up.
All right. Happy anniversary to the COVID lows.
Easier stocks.
You always say that. You said that about Tesla, easier places to be. I was like, all right, listen, to each its own, right? It's all good. Like, there's no wrong way to make money, right?
That's true.
Shall we?
Yeah, all right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the Dow futures up almost 100 points this morning, close to 0.25% to the upside, pushing 43,000. How about that? I had to double look there. 1,000 points above that key 42,000 level. S&P 500 futures 58.30, over 230 points above that key 5,600 level, up about 1/3% today. S&P 500 futures. NASDAQ up 1/3%, 67 points to the upside, 20,400. 30-year bond futures down again, down 1/4%, back to 116. Crude oil up again, pushing 70, up 2/3% this morning. Copper ripping up 1 1/3%, 516 for copper. Very impressive. Not things we see in recessions. Gold hitting new all-time highs this week, up 1/3%, still above 3,000. Silver up almost 2%, back above 34, with the VIX steadily declining, which historically is very bullish. When the VIX peaks and starts to decline, VIX down to 17, actually, believe it or not. Over in funny money land, we got Bitcoin down 400 points this morning, 87,000 for the BTC. Ethereum down about 1%, 2,060, with the Sol up again. Very impressive on the Solana, making new multi-week highs today, up almost a full percent, above 142. With the total crypto market cap, Mr. Spencer Israel, 2.81 trillion.
I'm not impressed.
You're not impressed by what?
I'm not impressed by the full 1% on Sol.
Fine, but I am impressed that it held the 120. That was a big one.
I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
It was at like 300 not long ago, but sure.
I don't know what 300 has anything to do with the fact that we've been pounding the table about key support at 120, and if Solana loses 120, it's over.
Yeah.
What does 300 have anything to do with this?
So holding support is great. Impressive is probably not the word for it, right?
To quote the great Luis Yamada,
we're talking about something not going down right now.
The first thing that stocks could do before they could start going up is to stop going down.
Got to see it.
Got to see it. Agreed. No, there's levels to the upside. I mean, Ethereum above 2,100, I think, is huge. BTC above 90 is even bigger because BTC is not full of all these like loser bag holders when Ethereum is. So like Ethereum is like on another level. BTC above 90. That's probably, I don't know. You tell me, Strazza. As far as crypto is concerned, BTC above or below 90. Is there anything more important out there?
I'm back in the MSTU. Let's get the rec share guys on here.
Which one? Explain to me what MSTU does exactly.
It's the double long.
Double long. Got it. Okay. I get confused with which one is double short, double long. I was going to say, if you're buying this double short right now, you're fucking crazy, bro.
Z's the double short.
Z's the double short and then use the double long.
Dude, these are such liquid vehicles. I mean, these things are they're really solid. If you're looking to trade a couple days, you could go back and forth from one to the other. It's lovely.
Okay. Can you, Spencer, while I mention this, can you bring up slide 9, please? I hate to keep coming back to this, because you guys think I'm like making this shit up. I already told Strazza. I called Strazza yesterday because I had to tell him. I told Louis. I told, who else did I tell? I told somebody else. So I'm at the gym yesterday doing legs, right? Because I'm not like Strazza who skips leg day. I actually do, we work out our legs, right, Strazza? Right?
Yep.
Strazza does his leg exercises in the pool with the boomers.
That's
right. So I'm working out with Maggie, minding my own business, just doing my thing, right? And I just kind of like whispered to myself in between sets. I was like, man, the stock market is ripping today. Like I just kind of like whispered, and she knows like I'm in the business. So like, that's all I said. That's all I said. I swear to God. And she starts going off. She's like, one of my clients, she's one of these liberals. And she's telling me last week how happy she gets when Tesla stock is falling. And like, I'm like, are you like trolling me right now? Like, do you read my weekend emails? Like, because I didn't think she did. And as it turns out, she was not trolling me. She was telling me the truth. She doesn't read my weekend emails. In fact, I had to show her my weekend emails to explain why I thought it was so funny that she's telling me the story. And I told her how long we were of Tesla and how great it is. And she's like, you bastard, you're experiencing the same thing as me, except you're making money off of it and I'm not. I'm like, yeah, that's right. She's like, man, I got to get in a different business. Like, like we came to the same conclusion. We both laughed about it. I did something about it. She did not, right? I mean, obviously, this is what I do, and she does something else, obviously, so it's more logical for me. But this was real life. And this is on top of all the other things that we've already been seeing. Is this like, it's like the world trolling me?
There's a bajillion factors into going on, especially with Tesla. There's a bajillion headlines. There's a bajillion things happening at the same time. So it's interesting, this timing that you're pointing out, but I wouldn't read too much.
All of this is unsolicited. A couple of weekends ago, remember I told you? Unsolicited both times. And then yesterday,
you know what? You must be giving off a vibe. That's the only.
It's not like I'm going around asking, like, hey, Maggie, are any of your clients bitching about Elon Musk? Like, that's the last thing I want to talk about at the gym. The fact that I even whispered, wow, the market's ripping, was only because like the market was literally ripping in everybody's face and I couldn't help myself. But like usually that's the last thing I want to do in the gym is talk about the stock market. You know what I mean? Like I did not ask for this. It follows me around.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny.
I just want to clarify. JC does have more to his process than just buying things that other people hate. There's more going on there. He looks at charts. He uses technical analysis as well. Right. There's a lot of that going on too. That's important.
By the way, this observation of human behavior is technical analysis. For the record, we are.
Do you think that maybe you're weighing sentiment too much and getting like really caught up in this stuff?
No, to me, the most important part about this trade was that the risk was so well defined. Well, that's the most important thing of all of them. How clean is this?
Don't we always say that? Any trade's a great trade. I do. Any trade's a great trade.
People are like, oh, how high could it go? I'm like, I don't know. Higher than you think? I want to know where we're wrong. That's what I'm most interested in. And Strazza's like that too.
Yeah, we all every trade is great if there's a defined out, right?
I like the sentiment unwind as a tailwind.
That's what I think.
Or a headwind.
We got to see where this bounce goes. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Fair enough.
It's been 2 days.
First of all, look at those two. Those are weekly candles. Those are 2 long weekly candles. So it's not just 2 days.
The stock's been up for 2 days.
I have a 2-day chart that is really interesting. You guys want to see my 2-day chart?
Sure. Do I have a choice?
Like me, like 1 day doesn't make a trend. I'm not one of those guys, but this one
I don't know. I can't even tell anymore.
Hold on. I'm having some technical
and then I want to get to this question in the chat from Dawson, which I think is interesting. I think he's being genuinely. It's a genuine question, so we'll ask it after whatever.
What's the question?
The question is: can Chinese equities and U.S. equities go up at the same time?
Can Chinese equities and U.S. equities go up at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they?
They haven't.
Yeah, they can go up at the same time. Yeah,
maybe
they have a lot in the past. Of course.
They have for a week here, a week there, right? A couple weeks here, a couple weeks there.
They've gone up for years together, and they've gone down for years together. Yes, they can go up at the same time. They can go down at the same time. One can go up and one can go down. Yeah, totally. Spencer, can you throw up slide 3?
I don't think people are going to not buy a car because they don't like somebody. That's just too big of a purchase. Like if you want to not drink a soda or not drink a Bud Light because of politics, fine. But a purchase like a car, I'm just looking at the chat where everybody's talking about like how sales are going to plummet. I doubt it. I don't see it.
Sales in what?
See, I kind of think it's
Tesla.
The opposite, Steve. I kind of feel like it's the opposite.
We're still talking about Tesla. Dude,
right?
Like the car purchasing in the Tesla stock is like the last thing investors care about.
100%.
That's also true.
It's never been valued on that. You're right.
The only people that care about Tesla car sales are libs.
No, it's
no. That's a great point.
No, that's not true. It's people who value it based on fundamentals because that's all they have is the car sales and the credits. Right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody who takes their life seriously.
No, but to that point,
just
Spencer,
liberals that are pointing out the car sales.
But that's why the valuations never made sense.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The valuations never made any sense. So why does anybody think they're going to make sense now? Right. The car sales is the least important thing in the whole world here. Can we talk about the last 2 days in the trannies, please? Because I am the first to tell you that 1 day doesn't make a trend and 2 days might as well be the same as 1 day. Right. Oh, man. The last 2 days in the trannies are no joke. Like we have to talk about it. Strazza, are you you like how I put in that Uber relative strength there? Not bad, huh? Not bad.
I don't. Yeah, Uber to me is tech. Totally, it's just different. Transports. Problem with transports is if you're looking there for information, great. There's something there, but opportunities. There's been nothing. This has been one of the weakest subsectors in the market this whole cycle, and we're not seeing evidence of that changing.
You're not impressed with the last 2 days in the trannies?
JC, I'm not impressed with the last 2 days in literally anything. We
Yeah,
were over. No, this is the
Mark,
most over.
please.
Stop.
You're not
This is the
impressed with
most.
anything?
Stop. This is the
Tesla
most.
best day since November? You're not
Guys,
entertained?
read my notes from last week. Literally, I said the bounce is coming. Now we got to judge it. Like no one's surprised by the bounce. We were technically oversold, the most oversold this entire cycle. Of course, a bounce was coming. It took too long. It took like an extra week than I think it should have. Okay, if this were a bull
Yeah,
market,
but
we would have
underneath the
ripped right
surface,
off
there's
of those
already
lows.
improvement over the last few weeks.
Oh God, yeah, I know, and Europe too. But listen, when it
And
comes to
Asia,
US,
and Latin America, and Africa.
when it comes to US stocks, you are getting an oversold bounce. Right now, it could just be a dead cat bounce. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what kind of levels are reclaimed. There's a ton of damage out there. Right? We've had 2 up days. Let's not get too excited.
Strazza, do you want to school this child? Robert Pesci says sales don't matter. LOL.
Yeah,
Stop
no.
and listen to yourselves. You want to school this child?
If sales mattered, Tesla would be valued at some more traditional price to sales metric, but they're not because the way that this company is valued is basically as if they're going to take over the transportation industry in the future. Right? And the market's forward looking.
Is there like a presidential bestie, like a first bestie premium of some kind?
I don't know. This hasn't happened before, JC. So we don't really.
Yes, of course it happens. Come on, Spencer. Are you fucking kidding me? This is how America was created. This has never happened before. Are you shitting me? This is the way our country was built.
Not to this degree.
Happened before.
I agree,
Spencer.
Not to this. No, not to this degree.
Are you serious?
It's just public, dude, and you have the internet now. Stop. Give me a break.
Literally,
this is how it works.
This is literally what the founding fathers did. You understand?
What?
And as they should. Do you want the people making decisions for your country to be some broke schmuck who's never built anything? Or do you want people who've actually done something with their lives? This country was built by people who built things and did things.
Well,
for sure.
There also seems to be some sort of confusion about like how appointment works within government. Like people are sitting here saying Elon wasn't elected. No shit. You get to elect one person. You elect the president, and then he decides who does the work for him. It's as simple as that. You vote for one person. If you're voting in a state legislature or something like that, it's regional, right? Only the president is elected by the full country, and then he takes that mandate and he appoints the people that he wants. So this is basically just how government works. I don't understand.
It's always been this
madnesses.
way. Somehow along the way they got into like bringing in broke people who've never done anything. Like even the tampon guy is always bragging about how like he doesn't own any stocks and he has no
that's
money.
the best, dude.
Like, this is
That's
a
the
grown
best.
adult bragging that he's broke.
That's not even true. He had a pretty sizable Roth IRA, I believe. But whatever. Doesn't
He
matter.
brags about not owning stocks, Spencer.
I think only broke people can have a Roth IRA. I feel like if you make money,
Well, dude was a teacher. What do you expect? He was a teacher.
First of all,
I don't know what to tell you.
First of all,
like why are we hiring?
Stop. There's contribution limits on both IRAs, and the Roth is actually a lot better than traditional. If you plan on making money in the market.
Anyway, just tying a bow on the Tesla thing. Forward PE of 100, trailing PE of a 136. I mean, yeah, that's not like a car company, right? That's not. It's just not how you value this company. So,
Strazza, I thought you made some good points. I hate to give you any more credit. Your head's too big as it is. But I've been like a 560 guy for the S&P.
Yeah.
But you made some really good points on that, like 570, 575. Can you go over like what is this? A confluence? Is that the word? Confluence?
It's a great word. Word. So I did a post on it just because it's almost funny. There's so much going on here. So I've been pounding the table specifically on the VWAP off of the August lows for the major averages. That comes in right around 575. You saw it act as support on some sell-offs back in September, and then again late last year. Coming into this year, you have that January pivot low, right? So you got the January pivot low, the August VWAP right there at 575. Now you also have the 200-day moving average, right, which is cresting above price right now. S&P tried to S&P's trying to reclaim it now, right? Let's get back above there. That's important. You got the VWAP from the all-time highs, which is anchored just from that February pivot high there. And then if you do some Fibonacci math and you fib out the advance off of the August lows, that would be the 38% retracement to the downside. And then if you fib just the recent corrective wave, it's the 38% retracement back to the upside. So there's just so much going on at this level. It's what I was watching when we broke it and started moving lower. And I'm just going to keep using it as long as it keeps working. But I will say, I'll qualify all of this with that August VWAP is to me what makes it most important.
The August VWAP.
Yeah, so that's like it's like 578. It's always a zone. Like
So
I'll
that's
say
the
a round
August 5th
number.
The August 5th
Yeah.
volatility, Volmageddon.
That's right. So like I say 575, that VWAP is probably trading around 577 right now. These are all zones for me. Right? So this 575-ish area right here is just a really big one. And JC, if we could pop back above there on this rally and then hold it on the corrective wave, I'm back in. Back in US stocks, I think the long-term trend is still intact. And it just ends up being a big save, right? Because then in essence, what are we looking at in that scenario that I'm describing where we pop and hold above there? You're failing this tactical top and you're setting yourself up perfectly for a scoop and score back to new all-time highs. That's the way I see it. So I'm open to some good things coming. And we're moving in the right direction. But that's what I'm thinking about next.
What about from a sector rotation standpoint? I was looking at the stocks that are still kind of like below their 200-day moving average. The sectors themselves, there's still some work to do.
Yeah, tech. It's tech. Tech's so important that they got to get their shit together. It's really been since last summer that we lost large cap tech, so it's been a long time.
I think June.
You need those stocks back on trend. And look, you're seeing it. Look at semiconductors. They're the big story this week as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's great to see.
I've got a great chart here, slide 5. Why am I not able to participate in this?
Homie's trying to fail the top. Some interesting stuff going on.
Spencer, I'm putting it on the Slack. If you can add that. For some reason, it's not letting me.
Speculative tech is leading mega cap tech back to the upside right now. That's interesting. I think that's super offensive. That's bullish.
Oh, here we go. So this one comes from Bloomberg. So we're looking at CTA exposure. So these are commodity trading advisors that are historically really, really, really wrong at extremes and particularly at turning points. And we've got some of the most, one of the largest short positions in crude oil in over a decade by the CTAs. Strazza, do you smell squeeze?
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, that's great.
You know, one of the things that I find interesting, getting back to the sentiment and the politics, is, you know, the big thing around here. Because I asked, like, my father-in-law, he watches a lot of Fox, like a lot, like a criminally insane amount of Fox.
Yeah, it's always on. Yeah.
And so like I'm telling him, I was like, man, we're really buying oil, and he's like, you really think oil's gonna go up? Like he's kind of like, no way, drill baby drill, all that stuff. I'm like, exactly. Everybody just assumes the drill baby drill and the Trump and and oil's not gonna go up. I'll take the other side of that, right?
I mean, I think you're already seeing it. Look at energy stocks, right? Energy stocks made the first move. Oil's following.
You like where my head is at? Fade the drill baby drill.
Why does it always have to be something like this? No, I like it less when it has anything to do with that. Stop complicating my trades with your dumb politics.
You don't think that the drill baby drill is why?
Got nothing to do with it.
But you don't think that's why they're so short?
And just like Tesla doesn't matter, like car sales don't matter to Tesla, and fucking movies don't matter to Disney. All this stuff that we're talking about on here, none of it matters.
Yes. I disagree. You said it did. You said it didn't matter last week, and Tesla just ripped in the tampon guy's face. I think it matters.
There's so much. There is so much that matters. There is an infinite amount of factors pushing and pulling all the time.
Let me ask you something, Strazza. Well, then why do you think the short exposure is so aggressive? Like what like do they really think that crude oil is going to just fall apart?
I don't know. You had a top there. It's been weak. It looked like a decent short. I don't know. We've been watching the COT positioning for a while, and that's had our eye. So I think this is more. This is just confirming or supporting evidence, right, of the sentiment that we've known that's been out there from the futures markets.
I don't know. I think the they think that they're going to drill, and I think the Republicans think like, oh my God, oil energy prices are going to stay down forever, and the Orange Man is going to keep things cheap for us. I don't think so. I don't
Listen,
think so.
I like commodities right now. I still like the idea of this uncorrelated exposure to U.S. equities, and more of them are trending better and better. Like we had this conversation with Jason the other day. Gold kicked it off. Copper's breaking out of a base. Nobody seems to want to talk about it. I know you keep mentioning it every morning on State of the Markets, but like nobody else seems to like copper. Why wouldn't stuff like crude oil and these other commodity
That's it.
subgroups start
Strazza,
to work
that's it.
too?
That's it. Strazza, that's it right there. Gold goes first, copper follows, and then energy rips. And then what happened? Gold went first.
Yep.
Copper ultimately followed. We even said, when's copper going to get going? When's copper going to get going? Well, here you go.
100%.
Copper followed, and now energy is next. What you just said is spot on. Now, what's going to be the driver of energy? I think the positioning is off, and I think the drill baby drill is helping the positioning get off, and they're going to get their faces ripped.
But
And my
here's the problem.
father-in-law and all of the Fox watchers are going to get their faces ripped off, I think.
All right.
We have friends at hedge funds. They're not trading based on drill baby drill. That's we're talking about big money,
CTAs.
Smart money.
Dude, hedge funds are not that smart, bro. They just have more money.
Okay.
I don't know.
They're the same humans.
No, the
They have
ones I
more
worked
money.
at, these guys are pretty freaking smart. I gotta be honest with you.
Hey, all right, time. I'm bringing on
No
Kenny.
smarter than retail investors.
Listen, I'm bringing on Kenny for a minute, and then we got Meb here. So we got things. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Moving on.
It's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my clock, they tugging. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it 100. Hold up. Yeah.
Ooh, Kenny Glick in the house.
Keep that conversation going, Strazza. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. It's all bullshit. It's all rigged anyway. What's up?
It's just that what actually matters, just because you think something should matter doesn't mean that the market agrees that it matters.
Right.
Right.
But,
so it's not that it doesn't matter. It's just that the market has more important priorities.
But in the end, the love you take is something about the love you make. I don't know. You know what's important? My daughter is going on a date with a kid that likes the Grateful Dead, and he's taking her to a cover band show. So
marry him.
Wonderful.
And we're sending her. She's like, I need some shirts. I was like, ooh, I just overnighted her 3 or 4 Grateful Dead shirts. So that's where my head's at right now. That's where my head's
at. Are you proud of your daughter, or are you disappointed that she's gonna get with a stoner?
Like, no, you know what?
Where's the line?
My daughter is still what? So now she's still a freshman. Obviously, she's very, very particular, and I love it. And so if she likes this guy, I'm like, okay, cool. All right, let's see what's going on.
Kenny,
so,
what are we watching today?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you about yesterday. I checked out. I guess you guys saw me, right? I was already in comedy mode before the day got started. We had the elusive gap and go. The gap and go, with no gapping and crapping, no ripping and rolling. It was the most boring day, and I was checked out very, very early. And good thing I was, because I didn't see any opportunity to do anything. And it was one of those days. You had your the gap that never faded, and that was it. But you did have one trade. I mean, Nike was a decent reversal from Friday's mini strength. But that's it. I'm sitting here. I'm waiting to see if the sellers show up. But UVXY and the VIX products have all crashed. So I'm actually physically ill. That kind of day yesterday makes me sick. See, when you ask me why I'm a bear, that was me getting. I got physically angry and ill to my stomach, to my head, and I'm not even right today. So I'm just gonna be chilling. But there are a couple of companies I want to look at. Pony, you guys remember this one? I think Strazza brought me this one also. PONY. They reported earnings. It's an AI stock. And also this other one, POAI, piece of AI. It's not an AI stock. It's predictive oncology. But Pony in particular, that one reported earnings, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. You had the low of 12 and the high of 14, so we're right smack dab in the middle. And again, half numbers and whole numbers, just showing you the rigging of the market every morning. So above 14, I'm looking to buy, and below 12, I'll be looking to sell it. But I'm in very patient mode. April 11th, the market starts rolling in with real earnings. Delta Airlines is going to be coming along, and then we got the JP Morgan and the Goldman Sachs. So I'm very patient. Yesterday kind of threw me, and I'm still physically ill from it.
All right, you're in recovery mode from earnings season. You have a few weeks to recover.
That's right. I gotta get going.
Any big movers on the radar this morning though?
Nothing much going on. I mean, I'm looking at KB Homes. They reported earnings. There's not much going on there. No. You know, KBH, you got a little down move. So again, if this thing's going to bounce, I just wait for the washout at the beginning of the day. If it turns and breaks VWAP, but again, if you think the bull market's back, did it ever leave? Is the question. It never really did leave. But if there's going to be some selling today, it's going to the Qs again. That's where my focus is. You know, 491 area, 490 and a half. But we just pivoted over a point which a lot of us didn't think we'd see for at least a couple of weeks, and here we are. So again, if you're not feeling it, and again, this is just going out to us day traders, Day Trader Nation. What's up? If you're not feeling it, it's a good thing to just go back and do some rom-com. I watched Younger all day. I'm a loser. I'm a 53-year-old guy watching rom-com on Netflix all day yesterday. I'm a loser. So that's what I did. I watched Younger, and if you guys want a cute little show, yeah, all right, I'm gay. So, all right, take care, everybody.
Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
Oh, shit. All right. Oh, boy. I'm not sure how to segue off of that, but you guys were, it was Steve that was asking for a while. I was like, when can we get Meb on the show?
I'm very excited.
Well, we got Meb on the show. Meb Faber is here. So let's bring him up and let's see where that conversation goes.
Jay, we've been friends for a long time. Make the call.
I mean, this is pretty professional, guys.
Nice show you got going here.
Meb.
Hey, Meb.
What's going on?
Good morning. You know, I don't get up at 5:30 in the morning to go on CNBC, but if you guys want to talk about rom-coms, you know, that's why we get up before it gets light out here.
Well, see, Meb, people actually watch this network.
Yeah, so, there you go.
We actually have the people who watch this network aren't like, you know, in hospice. Like, you know, we get a young audience, younger, with actual assets, putting money to work. You know, professional chief strategists and portfolio managers all over the world are constantly messaging us, thanking us for what we do. Nobody else is doing it. But honestly, the reason we get all the props is because we have guests like you. You make us look good, Meb.
What's up, bud? Good to see you.
So how's California?
It's great. Land of milk and honey. I've been on the East Coast. You know, I was up in North Carolina. I got to see Ric Flair in Tampa last week randomly. Yeah, it's been interesting.
What the hell were you doing with Ric Flair? Were you like at a podcast?
No, I wasn't with Ric Flair. Ric Flair was with some very young, attractive woman at a restaurant at a bar. But I just happened to see Ric Flair. That was it. That was the extent.
Listen, it's better. Seeing Ric Flair is better than no Ric Flair at all. That's what I always say.
Right. That's right.
Meb, I mean, we can go in so many freaking directions here. You are a man of many talents. I feel like everybody knows you. Like you got some Rolodex, bro.
All right. Well, what do you want to talk about?
International
stocks.
Well, Spencer gave you I don't know if it was like a low blow. Like, I don't know, like he's like, Meb Faber writes great white papers. Like, yes, right. You do write great white papers, but I feel like that's like, you know, there's so much more to it. You want to start there? Tell us about the white papers. Why do you write so many papers? Who reads them? What are they for?
I like to pick fights. You know, I mean, look, this goes way back, man. You're taking me in the way back machine. This was pre-global financial crisis. This has a connection to you. You know, I actually back then, the origin story was I had to write the CMT organization had a level 3 where you could write a paper or take the test. And like most of us, I didn't want to take the test. So I said, you know, I'm in my 20s at the time. I said, I'll write a paper, but there was a deadline for December 31st. So December 30th, I tried to figure out what when I could write about and I threw in an abstract. That paper is now, for a long time, it was the most read paper on the SSRN out of millions of papers. I got to update. It's almost 20 years old. So
that was your first white paper. It was just a deadline, procrastinating, get it done. And that was your first one?
It ended up in the Journal of Wealth Management, like maybe 2006, 7. Now, to be clear, this was a trend following paper. And so the reason it was popular is it came before the financial crisis. It came after, no one would have read it. They may have read it, but they would have said, not that interesting. So anyway, it gave us, that kind of put the stamp on. And, fast forward, I don't know how many we've written, 20 or so later. It's all our crazy ideas. We put pen to paper.
Meb, can you tell people quickly just how you use trend following over the years in your strategies and funds?
Yeah, there's some things I'm super opinionated on. There's some things I'm less opinionated on. Trend following to me is a lot more widespread, I think, than people think. But if you're speaking specifically to the old school, almost like Charles Dow, 200-day moving average type of trend following strategy, it's really two ways. It's the main way is, hey, am I going to be long an asset or am I going to be out? And the giant takeaway from that paper was, all the returns come when markets are going up, and when they're going down, it gets to be kind of a dark and scary place. And then, that was it. That was the simplicity. It was almost more of a portfolio sizing risk management tool. Really applies to any market, you can think of. And then you get to a bunch of especially interesting, interpretations, market cap investing, which is what 99% of investors do. That's the most basic trend following algorithm there is. People don't like to admit that, but a lot of people don't know that, by the way. If you talk to the average investor, you say, hey, how's the S&P pick their stocks, or how's all these big giant VTI and everything else? It's just price of the stock. That's it. Shares outstanding. So anyway, it goes back to we're actually working on a history of trend following documentary right now, talking about managed futures and everyone else. But that was the basics.
Love it.
Meb, I'll take this one, Strazza. So Meb, you've been through a few cycles. There's a lot of market participants that maybe started post 2011, 2012 that have never seen United States underperform. They've never seen it. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what bull markets and precious metals look like. They don't know what commodity super cycles look like. Like, they've studied them, like they know that they existed back in the day, but like they've never actually lived through them. Someone like yourself, right? You look younger than me, but you got a couple more years on me. So you've seen it.
We last year we wrote a paper called The Bear Market and Diversification. And what this is talking about, the S&P, there's been 4 times in history where the S&P has done 15% a year for over a decade. And they all have names: Roaring 20s, Nifty 50, Internet bubble, and whatever we're calling this, COVID meme stock era, right? So amazing returns. And you talk to the average person, they're like, yeah, I expect stocks to do 15% per year. But then we like to say, hey, what does this look like? Is this normal? You compare it to any asset allocation portfolio, 60-40 permanent portfolio, endowment, on and on and on. It's creamed all of those, right? And so not only is it creamed in terms of magnitude, but even worse is years in a row. So if your neighbor who's just dollar cost averaging into S&P has creamed every institutional allocation there is, with really the only exception in the last 100 years being the post-World War II period, 1940s. So amazing time to be a U.S. investor. But what does that lead to, right? That leads to periods where U.S. stocks have gotten expensive. There's no question in my mind. Foreign stocks, however, have been left behind, right? So I ran into someone, though, last week and said, Meb, you've been talking about global investing. I remember you talking about it in 2014. I said, yeah, look, here we are, finally. But the example I'd love to give, I say, look, if you were a global investor in the past 15 years, that's worked in 44 out of 45 countries. If you're in Brazil, if you're in Korea, if you're in UK, if you're in Australia, it's been amazing to be a global investor.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because I know some people are like, wait, what? Can you explain what that means? Because you're looking at it from the eyes of somebody who lives in that country, and overseas investing includes America. So can you
we love to, every country around the world has home country bias. You put most of your money in your own country. And it's true in the US. We do polls, and you could ask, your listeners, say, how much do you put in your U.S. assets often? And the answer is usually 70, 80, 90%. Usually it's 100. And, you know, traditionally throughout history, that's been a bad idea. And traditionally with U.S. stocks, it's been a bad idea. It's been better to diversify globally. I mean, the U.S. is a 2/3 world market cap. But if you're Brazilian, if you're Australian, if you're Japanese, if you're Russian, and you put the world market cap or you diversify it in the U.S., fantastic, because the U.S. has done great, you know, but also just this general diversification. However, 2024, you finally have a lot of these stocks doing great in other countries. And a lot of people, you know, love to demarcate this by foreign developed, foreign emerging. It's really, we track and we publish on the Idea Farm about 45 investable countries valuations too. And it's a lot of the really cheap countries that are ripping up about 20% this year. There's a lot of them. It's not just Europe. A lot of people say Europe, but it's a lot of the ones that have been forgotten for,
Chile.
you know,
A lot of it's a commodity
Poland.
story, right, Meb?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of things. I think it's you know, the biggest thing just being these are on a valuation basis, these are screaming cheap. And when people rotate, when the trends change, you know, it can get pretty explosive pretty quick, as we've all seen before in all sorts of market cycles.
I know, but Meb, do you think that the dollar just getting destroyed has certainly accelerated that rotation?
It's part of it. You know, I think I was chatting last year. I said, look, if you're ever wanted to go travel internationally, go to Japan. It's cheap. It's about as cheap as it'll ever get, you know, in a lot of these countries. But dollar, you know, is always a factor, you know, both as a tailwind or a headwind on any of these equity market returns.
And just for the record, anybody listening out there, don't wait for the yen and the valuation to go to Japan. Just go to Japan. Just go. Go eat some more. Just eat as much as possible. Right, Meb? Can you tell them?
Yeah. I was there last summer. Took my my mom, my son, my wife. It's a great country for little kids and old people. Everything works. Everyone's polite. Great.
They love
electricity.
Americans. They treat I mean, I can't think of a country where I'm treated better than I am in Japan.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And you know who else likes Japan? Warren Buffett. You know, Uncle
Yes, he
Warren.
does. Uncle Warren in his mid-90s, investing for the long term.
Yeah, you know, he's been loading up on a bunch of Japanese stocks, but you know, it's just the case that these things go through cycles, as we all know, and this has been one of the longest ones ever, where foreign stocks have. And by the way, listeners, my largest ETF is a U.S. stock fund. This is not me just pumping my book on what we're doing. So, you know, I just my favorite situation is a cheap, hated, in an uptrend, right? A market that like people
Hated.
despise.
Can you reiterate hated there? Because I got Spencer and Strazza breaking my balls because I'm focusing on sentiment. This is the great Meb Faber, Strazza. You have a man crush on Meb Faber.
Well, but what
talking
he
about sentiment, I just want to point out
what Meb just said is why I have such a crush on him. It's those three words. He's been saying it for a long time, and you could probably hear me echo that sentiment a lot when I talk about markets like China. The hated component is very important.
a lot of people my balls about it.
A lot of people will say something like, you know, hey, and I'm just picking a market out of a hat, you know. Last fall, they were like, China stock market has like no returns for, I don't know, 30 years since inception. And a lot of people run away from that. And I say, oh, that's interesting, you know, or something that's, you know, totally hated. And when the vibe, when the flows shift and that market goes from, you know, down, and I'm not using China as this particular example, but down 70% or down 90%, left for dead, trades at a single digit PE ratio, and all of a sudden starts creeping up, you know, to me, that's the contrarian side of me. It doesn't mean the trends always align with that. There's a lot of times that the trends will be in other things that we're invested in, but that's one of my favorites.
Meb, is this it? This rotation international that people have been talking about, and a lot of people have been waiting for so long.
That's the big question. Right? Because they've been cheap for a long time. They've been hated for most of my career, these international equities. And I'm the guy who's been head faked like 3, 4, fucking 10 times probably on this rotation.
Steve, not just you, bro.
And it's looking good again. But when you zoom out on these international ratios, I mean, they're still awful downtrends relative to the US.
Was that
you know, we have an old chart on Twitter that I like to post polls, as you guys know, on Twitter, but I also like to post charts, and sometimes I don't label them. And all I had on this chart, it was from like, say, the last 70 years, is I had 2 dots on the left, one blue, one red, and 2 dots on the right, but they were inverted. And I said, does anyone know what this is? And of course, it was impossible to figure out, but it was the valuation of U.S. stocks and foreign stocks in the end of the 1980s. So going back to talking about Japan, this was the biggest bubble we've ever seen in stocks, right? Japan's PE ratio hit almost 100, and the U.S. was screaming cheap. So all you had to do in the 1980s was buy U.S. stocks, sell foreign, and go away for 30 years, right? Japanese stock market, these big foreign stock markets didn't do anything. U.S. stock market, by the way, now is 10 times larger than any other single stock market. So let that sink in. That is a crazy statistic. And then today, you just have the flip situation. U.S. is expensive. Rest of the world is super cheap. So, how these are like the super long secular decisions we can make. But the decision to have none, which is most of the people I talk to me is crazy. Like that's an insane decision. So for now, at least the trends look great. And I'll give you guys one more tidbit. You got to do your own homework because I'm not going to help you on this. A fun idea involving a lot of the public funds is if we ever have peace in Europe and Asia, there's a lot of Russian securities marked on a lot of these funds books at zero. And that what we would call is a free call option for a lot of mutual funds. Also, those mutual funds, their assets may have gone down 50, 70, 80, 90%, which means, and they may have sold them, but you got to do your own due diligence. I'm not going to do it for you guys. You can go find a bunch of really interesting cheap call options if those stocks ever trade again.
So
All right.
they can literally just come back and they'll still be in these accounts.
So like if you're a mutual fund
Yeah.
and you held Russian stocks, they got frozen, but all of the funds mark them to zero. You can't be worth less than zero.
Right.
And then they trade elsewhere. So you kind of know what they're worth. So let's say they're worth 50 cents on a dollar, 100 cents on a dollar. One day when the US government says, if they do, these stocks can trade again, all of a sudden you're revaluing that position. And Russian stocks for many funds were a small percentage. And some funds, they were not a trivial 10, 20, 30% plus. And then if the assets went down, that Russian stock position couldn't be traded. Now there's some funds that tried to trade them and sell them for a penny on a dollar due to, various pressures from above, but just giving you guys a little idea, but I'm not going to do the work for you. You have to go look
The
on
ruble
your
has
own.
ripped this year.
Yeah.
We need some RSX back.
Yeah. They closed those though. Sadly.
Yeah.
When do they bring them back? Ever? One day.
I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
Meb, people are acting crazy when it comes to politics right now. I'm just hearing a lot of politics with, investment theses these days. What do you tell people when you talk to them and their brains are polluted by the politics?
I slap them first, but look, I mean,
I'm the nice guy. I'm not slapping anybody. He's slapping people.
This is a story as old as time, right? If you go back and look, and we're writing a coffee table book now. I think it's going to be my 8th book. Maybe this summer. I got to chase around an 8-year-old, so that's hard to do. But on the history of the stock market, and look, if you try to invest based on politics, good luck. It's going to be a tough one. However, we do note some comments that I think are interesting and amusing and funny, but almost never has to have anything to do with the actual political parties. It may have something to do with the 4-year cycle, of just who's in power, what they try to get through. Like the vast majority of recessions happen in the first year of a president's term, usually because they're trying to get some stuff done before trying to get reelected.
Right.
But it's a tough. The biggest mistakes we make in all of investing are behavioral, and getting out of these. Because of our own. I said on Twitter, I said, this will offend everyone equally. I said, doesn't matter which political party you identify with. As soon as you do, your IQ goes down 20% because you can't be objective, right? If you're just looking at the charts like you guys, if you're a quant like me, I'll give you a good example. This is a little more ESG than political, but it's similar. We asked investors on Twitter, said, would you invest in tobacco companies? And everyone said no. not everyone, but most people said, no, I don't want tobacco companies. So would you invest in tobacco companies if they beat the S&P? And everyone said yes. So, they have this sort of opinion and approach until it costs them money. So,
and then, Meb, the fact that we know that humans are irrational and their stress levels are elevated when politics are involved, and they make even less rational decisions or more irrational decisions in that environment. Going into the election, I remember seeing like Polymarket and the market sort of really pricing in a Trump landslide, and sure enough, we got it. But before that happened, it's like, man, wouldn't it be just right if Trump wins by a landslide, Republican sweep, and everybody thinks that's bad for China? We buy China, right? Like, thinking a few steps ahead in terms of the way the sentiment. Now, granted, we had these huge momentum thrusts in September that were already setting the stage for that, and that certainly helped. But thinking about it from a sentiment standpoint, a few steps ahead, I'd be lying to you. And Strazza was the first one to tell you that was certainly part of what we were seeing. And that just made our year, really. And that was part of it. Is there anything wrong with thinking that way?
That's the beauty of markets, is that, if you study history, you'll know they're super weird. For example, Russia stock markets shut down before. You would have known that. But like, there's always something in the future that's going to be different than the past. A good example was first time Trump got elected, futures were crashing. And Carl Icahn was sipping his martini, puts it down and buys a few billion of S&P. But the stock market had, for the first time ever, a calendar year where it went up every month. I think it set a record at 17 months up in a row or something. People weren't prepared for that. In the last few years, we've seen things like oil going negative. You always see crazy stuff going on. I was laughing as you mentioned Polymarket, because just to go show, well, let me pause and not say irrationality, because you guys may think this might happen. I don't know. Polymarket has a betting option where will Jesus come back in 2025?
I saw that.
Currently, it's like 4% says yes. So it seems like a pretty good 3%. We're down. Somebody's been shorting this, but anyway.
Well, think about it. When humans are the most irrational, when money's involved, politics, religion, right? Like, this is one of those. This is in that category of crazies, right?
Yeah. It's great though. But the problem here, look at efficient markets. You make that bet, Jesus doesn't show up, and that's roughly T-bill yield. So markets are somewhat efficient, I guess.
I love how you bring it back to the,
it's the funding cost
that risk
of it.
Premium.
There you go.
That's hilarious.
Well, this is another example. The biggest. So we gave a speech about a week or two ago, and I said, this is to a group of financial advisors. So I'm going to give you guys a warning, a solution, a head scratcher, and then something you've never heard of in your life. The warning, I said, look, U.S. stock markets are expensive. So what? That's like a yellow flashing light. But when they roll over into being expensive in a downtrend is really the worst quadrant you can be in. I said, the solution is you can do anything other than market caps. You can do value. We do shareholder yield in the U.S. You could do foreign. You could do emerging. You could move away into other things that are preferably cheaper in an uptrend. The confusion, the head scratcher, I said, was the entire fixed income space makes no sense to me. We wrote a paper called T-bills and chill, where if you look at T-bills versus all these other bond assets, historically, there's a lot of spread. And today there's not. If you look at corporate bonds, you look at junk bonds, but even things like 10-year, 30-year, inverted yield curves all across, historically, it's been a pretty dumb idea to invest in risky bonds when the spread is, low relative to history. We launched a fund based on this idea, and it's still chilling 100% in T-bills. So the whole fixed income space is a strange, really curious idea. And then the one thing you've never heard of is 351, and that gets into taxes. We probably don't have time for that, but that's an idea that you guys should Google if you have a little more time. It's like a 1031 for real estate, but for stocks, which is an idea that nobody's heard of.
We'll talk more about that. I'll do a little bit of homework.
Meb, hold on.
Can you get back to the valuation? Because my entire career as somebody who analyzes price and views valuations as really a distraction more than anything else. Someone like you who's really done the work and really quantified this, can you just explain to the folks like the lack of timing, right? Valuations are what they are, but as far as what that means to price, you know, is there any predictive value at all in terms of valuations?
Yeah, there is, and I think a lot of people use them in the wrong ways historically. You know, part of value over time is also what you avoid. You know, and there's a lot of danger in buying really expensive things. And going back to that, I try to. This is super simple. We have much more complicated, sophisticated models, but the super simple, where if you just bucket U.S. stocks, S&P, cheap, expensive, uptrend, downtrend, and do it for 120, whatever, 150 years that we have data for. Again, the best, not surprisingly, is a cheap uptrend, but second best is an expensive uptrend, right? And so if you said, "Oh, just stocks are expensive, I'm going to sit out of them," you know, well, then you avoid probably where they spend a great deal of time, right? There's a lot of money to be made there. Now, the problem comes when you flip from that expensive uptrend to expensive downtrend is where the pain occurs. But putting in that sort of framework, you know, valuation, I think can be super useful for a lot of reasons. But you know, the two halves of our brain have always been value on one side and trend on the other. We allocate more to trend strategies than any investment advisor in the country, right? Our default allocation to a trend following for our flagship allocation strategies is 50%. And you talk to the big institutions, the big family offices, the big billionaires all throughout the world. We just did a podcast with, you know, the CIO of UBS, and they manage the trillions. Say, how much do you put in trend following? Most say zero. And if they do have a trend following allocation relative to their portfolio, it's usually like 5-10%. And our default's 50. So we respect valuation. We like to use it, but as a complement to the trend, we think is the perfect pairing.
Love that. Any sectors that stand out? Here we are finishing up Q1, which is unbelievable. I feel like the year just started.
What's the read on the farmland assets these days? Are ag commodities going to follow copper and gold higher?
I just sold mine. My last remaining farmland. You know, God bless
Really?
you all.
Yeah.
God bless you all that do. I mean, the personal one I manage, I still have investments in farmland, but the one that's actually like, you know, I'm farming it, not in a tractor, but my brother's doing it. It's God bless the people that manage real assets. I don't care if it's an apartment building, if it's farmland. What a pain in the ass! Oh my God, you know, it's like it's hard. It's hard work. That's why you earn. That's why you earn the yields and the returns. To me, it's one of my all-time favorite assets. I love farmland. I think it's one of the hardest to own through traditional public markets. Like there's like a REIT, there's like a couple, you know, farm adjacent companies, but you can't really go out and buy thousands of acres that easily.
And where was your?
Is there a geographical aspect to how you're thinking about farmland? Does it matter?
I think people should take a similar approach as they would with anything, and you diversify. Like you want to get some wine grapes, like you know, out in the West Coast. You want to get some rice in the Southeast. You want to get some corn and wheat in the Midwest. On and on. That's smart to me. Like it's a thoughtful way to. There's some platforms now you can do it, like Acre Trader.
But you're talking about owning the land. I source my fruit from the vineyard.
Yeah.
Does that qualify or no? I got to own the land.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to do it for sure. You know, to me, it's one of the few assets that's least represented in public. The other being single family housing globally. It's hard to do single family housing globally. But it's a great asset, you know. And so, but it's you know, one of these assets that's great because you don't market that much, and it's heavily subsidized in the U.S. But yeah, so we've started to see on our trend following, our momentum fund, you know, it's definitely had precious metals and gold, but the other sector in the commodity space has definitely been sort of the ag has been perking up. You've seen a lot of interesting there. Our momentum fund is almost entirely foreign assets, a smattering of real assets, and a smattering of got a tiny bit of Bitcoin still in there.
You took the words right in my mouth. Before we let you run, I wanted to hear your thoughts on cryptocurrencies. Was that it? Was that the cycle, or are we just getting going?
I have the least satisfying answer on this. as for anyone. Got to have lunch with Michael Saylor last week, and you guys probably saw him say on Twitter, he's like, sell your kidney, but keep your Bitcoin. And I was joking, and I kind of retweeted him, and I said, better yet, sell two. Right? It's like, it's a tough. I'm somewhere in between Saylor and Charlie Munger, who called it crypto crapo. Look, I always tell people to buy in proportion to the global market portfolio. And what's crypto? 0.5%, 1%. People hate to hear that. They either want to hear it's a scam and it's going to zero, or put my whole portfolio in it. And I said, look, you want to put some in line with the GMP, go for it. And that way, if it grows, it'll one day become 10%, 20%. If it goes to zero, that's fine too. But that's true of anything. And that keeps you from going broke and losing all your chips. That's the worst thing that can happen to a trader, right? You can't bet anymore.
And it helps with the FOMO, the fact that you've got some, right? Like you go to sleep knowing that, you're in. It might not be life-changing, but there's something in there you can always add to it, right? There's a psychological aspect to that too.
Yeah, you have a little bit of that, removing the regret. That's a big part. But that people struggle with that. They always want to think in binary terms. This is true for investments that work out great too. We did this fun podcast with Hank Bessenbinder talking about what is the best performing stock of all time, and all these stocks that have been 100,000 baggers, right? The problem for most of us though is it's tempting to sell along the way. You buy a stock, that thing doubles. You want to come on here and put in the chat, hey, I'm brilliant. You guys should have followed me into XYZ stock. It was a double, I sold it. I now own a timeshare in Cabo. But, every 10 bagger was once a 2 bagger, and every 100 bagger was once a 10 bagger. And so it's hard, I think, for people to really start to think about how to invest with these massive winners. And then at some point, you don't have to think in binary terms. You can say, look, I'm going to sell 10% of it. I'm going to sell 20%. I'm going to sell half. And I think that's true with crypto too. That
wasn't so bad of an answer, man. That was a good answer.
It's a good answer. It's a great answer. It's not satisfying answer, because it's like saying, hey, Meb, who you taking Broncos Raiders this weekend? This would be like my wife. She's like, I'm going to cheer for both teams. Right? Like nobody wants to hear that answer. They want to hear, you go on at CNBC. This is why I like coming on this show. There's nuance. But most people, they want to hear one or the other. They don't want to hear, it's fine.
Meb, you're always welcome here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much. We give you shout outs all the time. Really, really thankful for you taking the time out this morning.
Thanks for waking up early for us.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to go get back in bed.
Later, bro.
See ya.
Meb Faber, he's great.
He's one of those guys where I'm just drawn to his energy. He's got the all figured out energy. Like you listen to the way somebody like Brian Shannon talks, or Tom Basso, or Jerry Parker, David Lundgren, right? Nothing surprises them. Okay, this is the process. Here's what I do. Cheap hated in an uptrend. It's just such a good vibe. Meb's got it all figured out, man. I love having conversations with him about this kind of stuff. How stupid does the person in the chat feel who said Meb's not a trend follower now?
What an idiot.
To stick with Meb's sports analogy, it's almost like he's just rooting for a good game, right? That's what he wants to see, a good game. Doesn't care who wins, just wants to see a good game.
Yeah, Spencer, that's it. He's going to do what he's going to do, and, whatever happens, happens. And that's really the right approach you should have with markets, or else you're just going to be running around. You're going to be a really frustrated man.
He also lives in Manhattan Beach, and, there's that California, lifestyle, vibe.
Yeah.
He's got that going. I'm familiar with that vibe, and I dig it. I'm into it.
Surfer dude. Chilling on a farm.
Surf, snowboards, the whole thing. Denver, California. Denver and California, 2 of my 3 favorite states in the union.
Interesting what he said about how they marked these Russian securities to zero. So I got to go find what those funds are, because he knows what they are. I have an idea what they could be. But that's great. Call options.
You know them.
Call options. I'm sure there's a lot of them. Yeah.
You're on mute, Spencer.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Loud. We got Patrick here.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah. All right.
How you
What's
doing,
going
my
on?
friend?
How we
Pat the
doing?
Strat.
The Strat. Am I
Pat
still
the
in your
Strat.
phone as the Strat?
Pat the Strat. Donna Willa.
We used to call him P. Diddy, but we're not allowed to do that anymore.
No, we can't say that anymore.
Yeah, I
No.
can't say that anymore. That's
Yeah.
been canceled. So no more of that. And what do we call you now? S&P Diddy? That's what we call you now?
I like that.
You like that
I
one?
think you just
Yeah?
nailed it. Yeah.
No,
All
he's the micro Strat Pat.
Hold on. Pat's got a very important job. Pat is looking for office space for us today.
Yeah, putting on my real estate hat.
Yeah.
Putting on your real estate hat. You better not find us a shitty place. We got we got a reputation to maintain. We got to get. It's got to be a dope spot, right? Strazza, tell them.
Are you going too? Is this like a party with
No,
the
I'm
real
not
estate
going.
broker? How many
I'm not
people
going.
are going?
I got work to do,
It's a
bro.
party.
Okay.
You're invited too, Strazza.
I'm not coming.
No, it's him and Rick. Him and Rick are going around.
Hmm.
We're gonna get all my magazine covers and we're gonna decorate the office.
I know. I heard that. I like that idea.
You like that? I mean, I don't know what else to do with them. Like, I have dude. I've been digging through boxes, and Morgan is like so thrilled that I'm actually finally going through these boxes. I've had these boxes since before we moved to California. We lived in California for 5 years. We moved back to the East Coast. We've been here for 5 years, and I still haven't gone through these goddamn boxes.
I had no idea you had this collection.
I mean, I started this collection probably in like 2008, 2009 during the great financial crisis. I probably started it. I remember I had my hedge fund in 2012 and I had a couple of these up on the wall. I had the one from 2002 with the chart falling off the earth. I had that one up on the wall. And then the chubby guy hugging the real estate, in the, I think it was Time.
Is it
And
just
I
market
had those
stuff
two up on my wall.
for all like kind of world events?
Yeah. I got some good ones, man.
I used to collect the world events, and my parents threw out all of my boxes. I had probably 8 boxes of New York Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, just famous cover stories. And they're gone now. They're gone. They're all gone. Because I have a box problem. I don't have a basement.
Are you a hoarder, Strazza?
No. But I know what JC's saying about the boxes. They add up over the years. And
Dude, I packed these boxes in my New York City apartment in the summer of 15.
Right.
And then moved them to California. They stayed in the garage the whole time.
Totally.
I moved back to the East Coast. They've been here the whole time. I still haven't gone through them.
Dude, I'm the same way. I got boxes that have been in 3 states, never unpacked. Problem is, you have a nice big old basement.
I do. And my wife's still complaining that I need to go through the boxes. So I did. I have been doing that, and I've been showing some of the goods. Dude, I have like old badges from conferences like in 07, 06. Like I got crazy shit.
Is Morgan kicking you out? Is she making you go work in the city?
No, she likes it. She doesn't like it when I go in the city. She likes it because she thinks something bad's gonna happen. So she likes it when I'm close by.
I think that too. City's dangerous. I worry about you guys.
Moms are just crazy.
I worry about you guys.
Think about irrational behavior. Moms are on another level.
Stay off the subway, Pat.
Yeah.
All right, Pat, what are you seeing out there, my man? Speaking of Rolodexes, we were talking about Meb Faber's Rolodex. Patrick Dunawilla's got some Rolodex. Patrick knows everybody. Pat, what are you hearing out there? Is the bear market here? Recession? World's going to come to an end? Like I keep being told.
It seems like everyone's in wait and see mode. It's still a lot for the market to prove. This bounce was kind of due or overdue, and at this point, it's just Strazza pointed out that 575 yesterday. It's funny. Strazza and I talked yesterday, and at no point did we mention 575. But I was kind of looking at that level, and then later I see his post about it, and he had even more reasons why it's an important level. And it is. I mean, just tons of reasons why, tons of things aligning at that level. And yeah, that's awesome. We reclaimed the 200-day yesterday, but still a lot to prove there. I think 575 is the more important one.
For me, Pat, 575 is big for the August VWAP, and it undoes that damage, right? That's a top until it's not. We got to undo that top and get back above. That's the neckline at the January pivot low. It's also the gap from the post-election session. So there's a lot of price memory there. It's a very logical level. And I think that you could look at it if we're back above 575 and say they repaired that damage of that tactical top.
Right. And how about copper today? I mean, finally getting it done. It broke out and then it was looking a little sketchy, but sticking it today.
Commodities. What's your favorite commodity? Yeah.
Yep.
What's your favorite one?
I mean, copper's looking great. I mean, here it is at all-time high. Nothing in its way to hold it down here. No reason it can't get to 6. I mean, that 5 level has been so tough for it, but this is, I would call it decisive. I don't know about you.
I think you could even buy like the real crappy ones. Like what's going on with steel and aluminum? Don't they eventually participate too? And these stocks have been absolutely killed.
Yeah, I haven't looked at those as much. Another interesting thing though is kind of this this, I don't want to call it an unwind, but kind of a retracement of the whole international theme. You know, last few days China hasn't worked, and that's kind of unusual, right? I mean, it held up so well throughout the correction there when U.S. markets were, and now that whole thing's kind of reversed. So this is kind of a moment of truth for, I think, a lot of those relative trends, like China versus U.S., things like that.
Well, you made a good point about India too when we were talking yesterday.
What about it? That it's looking a little better on a relative basis?
Well, India is all of a sudden catching flows again. If you look at something like the India MSCI 50 from 47 to 51.
Oh my gosh, yeah, these last few days. Wow.
While they're apparently maybe easing off China a little bit. So I'm paying attention to that ratio a lot to kind of figure out where the EM funds are going, because when China was rallying last year, that ratio was favoring it. So I think you want to see that continue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as international goes, India was kind of the place to be until international actually started working, right?
You know what? So I was just thinking about India. Did you hear Meb?
I didn't. I missed that part.
So his thing is he likes the countries that are, or the assets that are cheap, hated, and in an uptrend. And then he talks about how when they backtest that, that's the best forward performance. But the second best category is actually expensive and in an uptrend. However, bubbles, right?
And what's he using for valuation? Like just price to earnings or
10-year PE.
Oh,
So and then the point he made was it gets really dangerous, dull, when that trend flips and it goes from expensive in an uptrend to expensive in a downtrend. That's what India is. India is loved, expensive, and now in a downtrend.
Oh, okay.
So just the valuation for India got so stretched compared to other regions of the world that if that's a top, right, and we're making lower highs and lower lows, you got to stay away from a country like India. It's the absolute opposite of something like China, which is cheap and hated and just coming out of a massive base, kicking off a new uptrend from a very low base, a low value, depressed valuation.
Wait, where does expensive and in a downtrend fall? That's no bueno?
That's bad.
Okay.
That's the stuff that gets blasted.
Yeah. I see what you mean. And here we are, India is as sharp as that bounce has been these last few days, kind of just coming into the neckline of that, had that kind of head and shoulders top at the fail breakout. That's ugly.
Yep. Yeah, I think India could get slammed here. I mean, are you looking at anything else like Latin America? Catching your attention at all?
Austria, EWO, check that one out.
Love
that
it.
one, and it's failed at that 27 level multiple times.
Oh, what a base! This is great.
2 big bases. I mean, maybe you call it a cup and handle. I don't know, but just 2 giant bases next to each other, and it hasn't been able to clear that 27 level. But what is it going to be? 4th time's the charm, something like that.
Pat, this thing's got Greece, Italy written all over it. Similar bases there. If you go look at EWI, right, it's the same pattern. It's just resolved. That's giving you the roadmap for where this EWO goes next.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Do you think these relative trends hold as far as international? Like, do you think China just classic retest, or is this fail move?
Depending on what you're looking at, it's even less about holding. They're not even in place yet. I don't look at the standard VEU SPY. I don't look at that chart and say that's a trend reversal.
Right.
I say it's on its way. We got the bullish momentum thrust, right? We got the initiation, but there's a lot of work to do. You can draw on VEU SPY a downtrend channel almost perfectly. So if you log the chart, draw a little downtrend channel from the 08, 09 highs all the way to today. And it's still in it. So that's got to change.
Yeah. I mean, it has been just like this process of like a thrust kind of thing and then backing off.
I come back to the momentum thrust in China at the end of September, Strazza.
Yeah, totally.
That's, when just hearing you guys, I kind of like debate, I come back to that. Can you just tell the folks and explain to the folks, what it is that I'm referring to? You say, well.
Yeah. We had some like a starting line momentum reading. It's what you want to see.
What does that mean?
A bullish initiation thrust, right? So like a momentum thrust, similar to the breath thrust. You want to see some absolute blowout momentum in the very, very early stages of a new uptrend. And then it will often happen before you even can tell that that new uptrend is in place. And that's what happened with China. We blew out. You can see it if you just look at the FXI in mid to late September of last year. We blew out to the October highs. The trend died for 3 months, went straight sideways. Everybody hated it again, and then ripper. That's textbook, right? For as far as a bullish initiation reading goes.
And when we're talking about retest, that's what we're talking about retesting, right? And a lot of it is that peak from September, October.
Want to see more from the European ratios, but you could argue you got an initiation thrust there, at least on a relative basis recently.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yesterday I think was worst day for Europe versus S&P since the election. That's not that crazy. I mean, before that, on the way up, we saw, what was it, best day since like 2011 or something? So, I mean, best day since the election. What is that, like 4 months, 5 months?
Because you always get that give back. Even like in the EFA SPY, those short-term readings, 1 day, 5 day, you got to go back to the pandemic 2020. For anything like this, if you pull up EFA SPY, just look at like a 5 day, right? You got to go all the way back to 2020 for a reading like that. So that's big. Now you just got to reverse that trend. And then after you get momentum like that over the short term, your sideways are down usually, right? So it's one of those signals that I don't know if people don't believe in it or if it just doesn't work the way that people want, but you get the signal and then you take a step back off the gas, right? And then you watch the trend, you watch price to tell you when it's time to enter. You don't just say, oh, bullish, initiation reading, I'm all in. No, you could correct for 3 months after that, just like China did late last year.
Right. I do like that a lot of those relative trends did get overbought for the first time in a while.
Agreed. Yeah. And then the rate of change, I was just looking at some data that's talking about the Q1 is the largest outperformance from European equities ever.
Whoa.
Largest outperformance for a quarter by European equities of all time.
Not what I'm seeing.
You're not seeing? No, really?
I don't know what index are they using.
They are using. I just saw it. They are using the.
We're saying
Euro Stock 600 relative to the S&P 500.
They're probably looking at it local versus local, though. I hate that.
They're probably looking at it local versus local. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we had a great quarter. This is what I was asking Meb. Like, I've been faked out on this so many times. Q4 of 2022. I would have told you it's on. Look at Europe. Europe crushed U.S. equities in the fourth quarter of 2022 when the bull market was just beginning. Then what happened? Boy, you hoped you were in the U.S. and not Europe for the next year. So it's tough. I think when it comes, like Meb was saying, it's a secular thing. So you want to take your time, watch the trends. It'll probably take time. Look, this EFA SPY ratio that I'm talking about that's been in a downtrend for 16 straight years, this could take a year or two of base building before it really gets going. We could be sideways in the big base here. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like,
it looks like China, you're saying, like where we have that nice little like reversal base.
You're at the show and they turn the lights off. The band's coming out soon. It's going to start, but you don't know exactly when they're going to come out and start playing. Right? That's like the initiation reading. It's coming. When exactly it happens, when exactly it starts, I don't know.
I like what you did there,
right? Like the show is coming on. I don't know when it starts. Ask me in a few months.
I like what you did there. That was good. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. It's a process.
Listen, S&P Diddy's got to go find us office space in New York City. Strazza and I have to put on some trades, some hedging trades that we have to
P
put
Diddy,
on.
are you PDD? Are you able to do spaces today? Are we
yeah.
still?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Spaces at
So
11.
we're still
Come by.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're not looking at houses all day.
No.
Okay. We
We're
got work
not
to
looking
do.
at any houses, first
No.
of all.
No.
No
Oh,
houses.
fun. Sounds fun for you guys. A little city date. I'm excited for you. You could give me a call. We could FaceTime. I could say hi to everybody at once.
I'll do that.
Only him and Rick.
I know you're going.
I'm not going.
Don't you want to see the studio? Why wouldn't you go?
We're not there yet, man.
Somebody's got to go.
They're gonna go and they're gonna take videos and pictures and send it to us.
We're not there yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the lights are off, you know? We're
Yeah.
waiting for the band to come on.
Shout out Harmon. Shout out Harmonder. He's my favorite in the chat.
Okay.
They're the front lines. These are the guys in the front lines. You and me are on the back. Let them kill themselves, right? You know what I'm saying, Strazza? We're in the back observing.
I'm just breaking balls. I'm excited for spaces. Are you going to stop by?
Maybe.
Programming
No, I will. I'll be
announcement.
there.
Programming announcement. We are not doing a show tomorrow. JC and I are going to head down to Baltimore, do a little powwow. We'll be back.
May or
on
may
Thursday.
not get some sushi.
Okay, whatever. I don't know anything about that, but Thursday.
I'm
we'll be
wearing
back.
red today, Dawson.
Okay. So no show tomorrow. We'll be back on Thursday, but today we got stuff going on. We got the spaces, as Steve mentioned, at 11. We got Jeff Mackey doing a live stream at 1. The guys are going to record a flow show at 2. And yeah, we got things. Things are happening. So we'll be back on this show on Thursday. No show tomorrow, like I said. See you guys on the spaces or the live streams. And thank you once again to Meb Faber.
Are
Thanks
we
to
doing
Patrick.
some recess? I have a good recess.
Oh, we can. I didn't realize you wanted to. Sure. We
Oh
can do
yeah,
a
I got a
recess.
good one. I got a good one. Hit it.
Yeah.
We
All
should
right, so here we
make.
go.
Hold on.
Hold on. Wait.
We should make Tampon Tim Tesla T-shirts.
There's too much alliteration. Can't do
Yeah,
it. Sorry.
I like alliteration, but I'm not gonna wear
Sorry.
that.
JC,
Strazz is the person who would wear. We have our "Sell Puts Naked" t-shirts. I'm in like the airplane minding my own business, and all of a sudden Strazza strolls in with his "Sell Puts Naked" t-shirt.
Yep.
Like he actually rocks these. Just
I
can't wear that in public. I'm not gonna wear the
You
tampon.
guys didn't even know you were on the same flight, right?
rep my
We're on
hood.
the same plane.
I rep my hood. Okay.
Look. So
100.
this is Newsweek magazine, right? So the U.S. economy is a giant cash register, right? Dollar bills everywhere, like just a giant economic cash register swimming in dollar bills. Look at that.
January 1966. Wow.
January 1966. When did that bull market? When did the post-war bull market end? January 1966.
Yeah, these are too good.
Too good. Too good.
Why don't you write like a long post with all of them?
Because I still have another box that I know there's more stuff in there. I got to dig through that one. I got one more box to look through.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You do a whole book on the magazine cover indicator.
I was gonna say, aren't you in the CMT curriculum for the magazine indicator?
I know people think like I'm the magazine indicator guy. I am not. Like, this has been going on for a long time. I get all the credit for it. For some reason, I think because I was in the CMT curriculum talking about it maybe, but full disclosure, I am not the guy at all. Far from it. But maybe I'll be the guy of the future. I got a lot of good ones.
All right. My recess is I'm a few days behind, but if you're not watching The Pit on HBO, last week's episode, maybe the most tense episode of any show I've ever seen in my life.
Isn't that like a cop show?
No, it's about a hospital. It's about an emergency.
Oh yeah, it's like the ER. It's the new ER.
It's similar to ER. It's called The Pit.
Girls love this show.
Last week, I was basically sweating while watching this show. It was that intense. It was part one of a two-parter. I won't give any spoilers away, but it's a tremendous show. Last week, in particular, was like the high point thus far. It's only getting better. The show is at all-time highs right now, so I'm not fighting this trend.
You're a big General Hospital fan too?
No.
Okay.
But that show's been around for like 50 years, hasn't it? Yeah, that'd be quite a binge. But no, all-time highs. There's like 2 episodes left in the season. Incredible. If you haven't gotten around to it, check it out. The Pit on HBO. That's my recess.
That's great. White Lotus has been really slow, but finally getting good. None of you guys have been watching it.
I don't have the
Come on.
bandwidth to do like 3 shows at a time. So once the pit is over, we will do one.
And your kid hasn't even shown up yet.
Well, we're still doing The Sopranos, man. You know how long that takes? We've been on this for like 3 months.
Man,
You're
you're going
more of a Doogie Howser guy. Now that's
going
funny.
too slow.
That's
I think I'm gonna.
It's a hard show to binge.
I think I'm gonna go back and try to watch all the Seinfeld episodes in the background so that I understand more references.
I did some of that once. I did some of that.
You know, like how do people? When did people watch all these shows? How does everybody understand all the Seinfeld jokes? I don't get any of them.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. No, because they're on syndication forever.
It was always on. I know.
Yeah.
I used to hang out at my friend's house. It was just Seinfeld
Yeah,
episodes
always
running in
on.
the background all day long. Yeah.
That's how they're billionaires. Seinfeld and Larry David.
Yeah.
It was a Cuban, one Ricky Ricardo, who was the one who mastered the reruns when they were doing I Love Lucy. He's like, yeah, I'll sign your contract, but I own the rights. And then they laughed at him. They're like, no one's gonna watch that shit afterwards. Well,
shout out Cubans.
Shout out to the Cubans.
Shout out Ricky Ricardo.
Okay. Shout out Ricky Ricardo. Cool. We're done here.
Desi Arnaz Jr. Technically. Desi Arnaz.
Right. We're done here. We'll be back on Thursday. We got spaces in an hour, right? 2 hours? Yeah, 1 hour.
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you guys for that. Drop us a like. Thank you to Meb. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Kenny. Go make some money. And we'll see you later, all right?
Adios.
Bye, guys.
I can't take no loss.